The northern wind carried ash and blood across the borderlands, where the moonspire stood like a broken fang against the dying light. She knelt at its base, hands pressed against the frozen earth, feeling the poison pulse beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. 5 years, 5 rotations of seasons, 500 moons, and still the venom coiled through her veins like patient serpents, waiting. Her name was Kira, though few spoke it anymore. The pack called her other things now: Ghost, Shadow, the Hollow One, names for something not quite alive, not quite dead. She had learned to wear them like armor, to let the silence between her ribs grow so vast that even loneliness forgot to visit. The attack had come during the convergence, when 3 packs gathered under the ancient oaks to seal a fragile peace. She had been 17, standing guard at the eastern perimeter, watching fireflies dance between the trees. The blade entered her back without warning, sliding between ribs with surgical precision. But it wasn't the steel that had killed her. It was what lived on the blade's edge. Nightshade mixed with wolf's bane, essence of hemlock, and something older, something that smelled like rotting starlight and tasted like the space between worlds. The healer who examined her had gone pale, his weathered hands trembling as they traced the black veins spreading from the wound. "There's a consciousness to this poison," he had whispered, his breath fogging in the suddenly cold air. "It's waiting for something, someone." The Alpha had wanted to kill her then. Mercy, he called it, his amber eyes reflecting the funeral pyre already built in his mind. But the seer intervened, her blind gaze somehow seeing what others could not. "She is a key," the old woman had said, her voice like wind through hollow bones. "And somewhere there is a lock. Let her live, and we may yet understand the door they both guard." So Kira had lived, if you could call it that. The poison had rules. She could feel them inscribed on the inside of her skull, written in a language older than wolves. It fed on proximity, growing stronger when she neared those with alpha blood. It measured heartbeats, catalogued touches, analyzed every flutter of recognition in her chest. And it waited. Patient as stone, hungry as winter. The pack had made her their scout after that. Send the poisoned one ahead, let her die alone in foreign territory if the venom decides to wake. She had walked countless borders, mapped territories through the filter of perpetual dying, and learned to read the world through the lens of her own dissolution. She could feel them now, approaching from the east. Not her pack, something else. The poison stirred, uncoiling slightly, tasting the air through her blood. Kira's breath caught. In 5 years, it had never moved like this. The forest held its breath. 3 wolves emerged from the tree line, massive forms that made the ancient oaks seem young. Their fur caught moonlight like rippling mercury, and their eyes burned with the cold fire of those born to rule, royal guards, the Alpha King's elite. Kira forced herself to stillness even as the poison began to sing. It moved through her veins like music now, like prayer, like the inevitable tide. The center wolf, larger than the others, shifted mid-stride. Bones cracked and reformed, fur melting into skin, until a man stood where the beast had been. He was tall, carved from shadow and winter storms. Scars decorated his chest like constellations, and his eyes, silver as new moons, found her with the precision of an arrow finding its mark. The poison screamed. Kira's heart stuttered, stopped, restarted. The venom surged, racing toward her chest with sudden, terrible purpose. "No, not him. Anyone but you're the Hollow One," he said, his voice the rumble of distant thunder. Not a question, a recognition. She tried to speak, to warn him, to run, but the poison had wrapped around her spine, and her body belonged to it now. She could only watch as he walked closer, each step a countdown to detonation. "I am Aldrich," he continued, stopping just beyond arm's reach. "Alpha King of the Northern Realms. And you," his nostrils flared, "you carry death in your veins. I can smell it, ancient death, patient death." "Stay back," she managed, the words scraping her throat raw. I'm a weapon. I don't know who made me, but I know what I am." He smiled, and it was the saddest thing she had ever seen. "I know what you are too." His hand moved to his chest, pressing against scarred skin. "You're the answer to a question I've been asking for 5 years." The poison reached her heart, and everything shattered. The king's confession. Pain erupted like a second birth, tearing through every nerve, rewriting every cell. Kira collapsed, clawing at her chest as the venom activated. But instead of dying, she burned. Her vision fractured into silver light and shadow, and beneath it all, she heard the poison whispering. Found, target acquired, mate recognized. No. The word echoed through her dissolving consciousness, even as Aldrich knelt beside her, his hands hovering over her convulsing form. She could smell him now, really smell him, winter pine and old blood, authority and loneliness, and underneath it all, something that called to the deepest part of her soul. "The night you were poisoned," Aldrich said, his voice cutting through her agony. "I was there. In the forest beyond the convergence, I had come in secret, hoping to forge alliances your Alpha wouldn't permit in public." His fingers finally touched her shoulder, and the contact sent lightning through her veins. "I felt it the moment the blade entered you, like someone had driven iron through my own chest." The poison twisted, confused. It had been designed to kill when her heart recognized its mate. But something was wrong. She wasn't dying. She was transforming. "I've spent 5 years searching for you," Aldrich continued, "following rumors of a ghost who walked the borderlands. The seer told me the truth 3 moons ago, that you were poisoned not to kill me but to bind us. Someone knew what we would become to each other." Kira's back arched as her bones began to crack. Black veins spread across her skin like dark lightning, and her eyes bled from brown to silver. The poison wasn't destroying her, it was remaking her. "Who?" she gasped. "Who did this?" Aldrich's expression hardened. "Your Alpha." The words hit harder than the venom. Impossible. Her Alpha had wanted her dead, had only kept her alive because the seer works for me, Aldrich said quietly, reading her thoughts in her expression. "Has for 20 years. She told your Alpha you were dangerous, that you needed to be watched. But she told me the truth, that someone had forged you into a key that would only turn in one lock. Mine." The transformation reached its crescendo. Kira's scream tore the night, and power erupted from her chest. The poison uncoiled completely, but it didn't poison anymore. It merged, fused, became part of her essence until she couldn't tell where the venom ended, and she began. When the light faded, she lay gasping in Aldrich's arms. The black veins had settled into intricate patterns beneath her skin. Silver eyes matched his perfectly. She could feel his heartbeat against her back, could sense his emotions like they were her own. "What am I?" she whispered. "Awakened," he answered. "The poison was made from essence of the first wolves. It requires a perfect genetic match to activate without killing. And when it finds that match," he helped her sit up, his hands gentle despite their strength, "it creates something new, something that hasn't existed in 1,000 years. A mated pair with shared power." The knowledge bloomed in her mind, carried on the venom's final gift. "They made me into a weapon, but the weapon was meant to make you stronger. Us stronger." Aldrich's thumb traced the silver patterns on her wrist. "Your Alpha made a deal with someone, promised them a way to infiltrate my court, to place a living bomb close to my heart, but they didn't understand what they were creating." Kira's mind raced, fragments of 5 years fitting together. The attack was meant to look random. Get me poisoned, marked, make your seer suggest I was dangerous but useful, then arrange for me to eventually cross your path. When the poison activated, it would kill us both, except the fools who designed it used too pure a source. Instead of death, they gave us union. Aldrich stood, pulling her up with him. "Can you walk?" She tested her legs, marveling at how steady they felt. "I can do more than walk." The power hummed through her, wild and new and absolutely terrifying. "I can feel." Everything. The forest. The pack bonds. Your guards watching us from the trees. Good. His smile turned predatory. Because we're about to declare war. On my pack? The thought should have hurt more than it did. But after 5 years of being treated like a loaded weapon, she felt nothing for them but cold assessment. On whoever gave your alpha the poison in the first place. Aldrich's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. The touch sent warmth spiraling through her chest. Someone has been playing kingdoms like game pieces. Someone wanted both of us dead, but made the mistake of underestimating what we would become together. Kira looked down at their joined hands, at the silver veins pulsing in rhythm beneath their skin. 5 years of isolation, 5 years of being death incarnate. And now, I don't even know you, she said softly. You know my heartbeat, my scent, my soul. Aldrich raised their clasped hands to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. The poison knew before we did, and it gave us the gift of time. 5 years for you to grow strong enough to survive the awakening. 5 years for me to become worthy of finding you. Pretty speech for a king I'm supposed to kill. Try it, he challenged, his eyes dancing. See what happens when you try to harm your mate. She didn't need to try. She could feel the impossibility of it singing in her blood. They were bound now, woven together by ancient magic and modern treachery. To kill him would be to kill herself. To protect him was as natural as breathing. What happens now? She asked. Aldrich's expression sobered. Now we find out who wants the Northern Realms badly enough to create an assassin out of moonlight and poison, and we make them regret every breath they've taken since. He paused. But first, we get you somewhere safe. The awakening has only begun. Over the next 3 days, your body will continue to change. You'll need guidance, training, and you'll provide that. She couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. I'll provide everything. The promise in his words made her breath catch. Protection, training, answers. A place to belong that isn't measured in how useful your death might be. The offer hung between them, gilded in moonlight and impossibility. Kira looked back toward the Moonspire, toward the packlands beyond. Everything she had known for 22 years lay in that direction. And everything she could become. She turned back to Aldrich. 3 days. To complete the transformation. After that, you'll be strong enough to stand at my side when we face whatever's coming. And if I say no, if I walk away right now, his grip on her hand tightened infinitesimally. The bond would drive us both mad within a week. We're connected now. Distance would be agony. He met her eyes steadily. But I would endure it if that's what you wanted. I won't force you to stay. D. The honesty in his voice made something crack in her chest. 5 years of orders and exile, and here was power itself offering her a choice. Show me, she said finally. Show me this safe place, and then show me how to use whatever this poison made me into. Relief flickered across Aldrich's features. My estate is half a day's run north. Can you shift? Kira closed her eyes, reaching for the wolf that had been part of her since birth. But something was different now. The transformation came faster, smoother, and when she opened her eyes again, the world had sharpened into silver clarity. She was larger than before, stronger, and her fur. Aldrich shifted beside her, his massive wolf form pressing against her shoulder. Your coat. His mental voice slid into her mind, clear and warm. It matches mine now. Silver touched with shadow. She looked down at herself, at the way moonlight seemed to live in her fur. 5 years as a ghost, a hollow thing. And now she was luminous. Led the way, Alpha King, she sent back, testing this new connection. His pleasure at hearing her voice in his mind rippled through the bond. As my mate commands, they ran north together, leaving the Moonspire and everything it represented behind. Kira should have felt loss, should have mourned the life she was abandoning. But as the forest blurred past and Aldrich's presence sang in her blood, all she felt was the terrible, wonderful relief of finally being found. The poison had been meant to kill her. Instead, it had set her free. The court of Silver Shadow's dawn broke over the northern estate like a promise written in gold and rose. Kira stood at the window of her assigned chambers, watching light spill across mountains that scraped the sky's underbelly. Everything here felt impossibly vast. The architecture, the territory, the silence between Aldrich's words when he'd left her at the door with instructions to rest. Rest. As if sleep could claim her when every nerve ending hummed with new power. The chambers themselves were a study in contradictions. Spartan stone walls warmed by thick furs and tapestries depicting ancient battles. A bed large enough for a transformed wolf. Windows that could be sealed against siege or thrown open to invite the wind. This was a place built for warriors who appreciated beauty, for killers who dreamed of peace. A knock at the door pulled her from contemplation. "Enter," she called, her voice strange in her own ears, lower, edged with something that might have been command. A woman entered, small and compact with scars that suggested a history written in violence. Her dark hair was shot through with silver, and her eyes assessed Kira with the same precision a blade might assess a whetstone. "I'm Vera," she said, her accent thick with mountain origins. "The king's second. I train those worthy of standing at his back." She circled Kira slowly. "Word is, you're the hollow one, the ghost who's walked death for 5 years. Was," Kira corrected. "I'm something else now." "Are you?" Vera's smile was sharp. "The transformation isn't complete. You're still halfway between what you were and what you'll become. That makes you vulnerable, unpredictable." She stopped in front of Kira, tilting her head. "It also makes you dangerous as hell." "Good." Despite herself, Kira smiled. "Are you here to train me or assess whether I'm a threat?" "Both. Always both." Vera moved to the window, her gaze scanning the grounds below. "There are 50 wolves in this estate, 20 royal guards, 20 territory defenders, 10 civilians, healers, scouts, advisors. Every one of them will be watching you, judging whether their king has been bewitched, compromised, or blessed. And what do you think?" "I think," Vera said slowly, "that Aldrich has been half alive since I've known him. Ruling well, fighting better, but hollow at the center. Like he was waiting for something he couldn't name." She turned to face Kira. "This morning I saw him smile. Really smile, not the political mask he wears for court. So either you're the best enemy infiltration I've ever witnessed, or you're exactly what the fates intended." The bluntness was refreshing after years of whispered suspicions. "The poison was meant to kill us both." "I know." Aldrich briefed his inner circle last night. Vera's expression hardened. "Which means someone wanted the Northern Realms destabilized badly enough to attempt regicide through a 5-year plan. That kind of patience suggests serious resources, serious threat. Do you have suspects?" 3. The Eastern Coalition wants our mining territories. The Southern Court resents Aldrich's refusal to join their alliance. And there's always the human kingdoms, who'd love to see us tear each other apart. Vera began counting on her fingers. "But my money's on an inside threat. Someone close enough to know about First Wolf essence, old enough to recognize mate bonds, and cruel enough to weaponize them." Kira's stomach tightened. "My alpha?" "Possibly. But he's too obvious, too easily traced." "No." Vera's eyes narrowed. "I think your alpha was a tool. Someone fed him the poison, told him what it would do, and let him think he was being clever. Then we're hunting a puppet master. We're hunting a ghost." Vera moved toward the door, then paused. "Training starts in an hour, courtyard. Don't be late. Aldrich's wolves eat weakness for breakfast." When she was gone, Kira returned to the window. Below, wolves moved through morning routines, sparring in human form, running patrols in wolf form, the seamless dance of a pack that had trained together for years. She was an outsider here, a question mark wrapped in silver fur and poisoned veins. "You're thinking too loud." Aldrich's voice slipped through the mate bond like smoke through cracks. "I thought you were in council meetings," she sent back. "I am, but I can always hear you." Warmth colored his mental tone. "How are you feeling?" Kira considered lying, then discarded it. The bond wouldn't allow deception between them. Overwhelmed, powerful, terrified, all at once. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." A pause. "Vera will take care of you. She's hard, but fair, and she's already on your side." "How can you tell?" "Because she's still alive." Dark humor threaded his words. "Vera has a policy. Anyone who threatens me gets precisely one warning, then they disappear. The fact that she's training you instead of interrogating you in the dungeons means she's decided you're worth protecting, comforting. It should be. Vera's instincts have kept me alive through 3 assassination attempts and 2 full-scale wars." His presence in her mind intensified slightly. "I have to go. But Kira, don't hold back in training. Vera will respect strength more than restraint." The bond quieted as he returned his focus to whatever political machinations filled his morning. Kira dressed in the training clothes that had been laid out. Simple leather pants and a sleeveless tunic that allowed maximum movement. As she braided her hair back, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The black veins had darkened overnight, creating intricate patterns that resembled thorns or lightning across her shoulders and down her arms. Her eyes were pure silver now, with no trace of the brown that had been her birthright. She looked feral, powerful, dangerous. She looked like she belonged here. The courtyard was chaos, orchestrated into precision. 20 wolves sparred in shifting pairs, their movements a violent ballet of fang and claw, strategy and instinct. Vera stood at the center, calling corrections and adjustments with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. When Kira entered, every head turned. The silence was absolute. 20 pairs of eyes assessed her, judged her, found her wanting or worthy in the span of a heartbeat. She felt the weight of their attention like physical pressure, and the poison power in her veins stirred in response. "This," Vera announced, "is Kira, the king's mate. For the next 3 days, she is your responsibility. You will train her, test her, and teach her what it means to run with the Northern Court." Her gaze swept the assembled wolves. "Anyone who causes her harm will answer to me. Anyone who goes easy on her will answer to the king. Is that clear?" A chorus of assent rippled through the courtyard. "Good. Kira, you're with Marcus first. Hand-to-hand combat fundamentals." A mountain of a man stepped forward, easily 7 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. His smile was friendly despite his intimidating size. "Don't worry," he rumbled. "I'll try not to break you too badly on your first day." Kira matched his smile with one of her own. "I appreciate the consideration." She lasted exactly 12 seconds before he put her on her back. The next hour was an education in humility. Marcus moved with the deceptive speed of someone who'd learned to weaponize his size, and every time Kira thought she'd found an opening, he was already 2 steps ahead. But she learned, adjusted, adapted. By the time Vera called a break, Kira had managed to land 3 solid hits and avoid being immediately pinned twice. Progress. "Not bad," Marcus offered, helping her to her feet. "You've got good instincts. Raw, but good." "Again," Kira said, ignoring the way her ribs ached. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You sure we can—" "Again." They sparred for another hour, then another. Other wolves rotated through, each one teaching her different aspects of combat. Elena showed her how to read an opponent's breathing pattern. Darius taught her the art of fighting dirty when survival trumped honor. Sarah demonstrated the precise placement of pressure points that could drop even an alpha. By midday, Kira was bruised, bleeding, and exhilarated. "That's enough," Vera called. "Lunch, then we moved to wolf form training." Kira followed the group to the mess hall, hyper-aware of how they'd begun to include her in their casual conversations. Small things. Marcus asking if she preferred her meat rare or still moving. Elena offering tips on the best hot springs for sore muscles. The tentative threads of pack forming around her. She was finishing her second helping when Aldrich entered the hall. The room didn't quite fall silent, but the energy shifted, straightened, focused, became respectfully attentive. He nodded to his wolves, then came directly to where Kira sat. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the empty seat beside her. As if he needed permission in his own estate, but the courtesy mattered. She nodded. Up close, she could see the strain around his eyes, the weight of whatever political nightmares had filled his morning. Without thinking, she reached out through the bond, offering what comfort she could. His shoulders eased infinitesimally. "Thank you," he sent. "How is she doing?" he asked Vera aloud. "Better than expected. Worse than she'll be." Vera's assessment was characteristically blunt. "Give her a week. She'll hold her own against most of my regulars. Give her a month. She'll be scary." "She's already scary," Marcus muttered, rubbing his jaw where one of Kira's lucky strikes had connected. Aldrich's pride rippled through the bond. "I never doubted it." He turned to Kira. "This afternoon, would you join me for a walk? There's something I need to show you." "Of course." They left the estate an hour later, both in human form. Aldrich led her through ancient forest that had clearly never known an axe, where trees grew so thick the sunlight arrived in filtered gold streams. Birds sang overhead, and small creatures rustled in the undergrowth, unafraid. "This is the Heartwoods," Aldrich explained, "the oldest part of my territory. Some of these trees were saplings when the first wolves walked." Kira ran her hand along bark that felt like stone under her fingers. "It's beautiful. It's sacred." He stopped at a clearing where a massive stone stood, carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. "This is where my line began, where the first wolves blessed my ancestor with the strength to protect these lands." She could feel the power radiating from the stone, could sense echoes of ancient magic still clinging to it. "Why show me this?" "Because you need to understand what we're protecting." Aldrich's expression was grave. "Whoever poisoned you wants more than my death. They want the northern realms broken, the Heartwoods desecrated, and everything we've built turned to ash. That kind of hatred doesn't come from political ambition alone. Then where does it come from? Fear." He touched the stone with reverent fingers. "The first wolves were powerful beyond imagining, and when they departed this world, they left their essence behind, scattered, hidden, guarded. What was used to poison you was a fragment of that essence. Stolen from somewhere it should have been impossible to steal from." Kira's blood ran cold. "You think someone is collecting first wolf essence?" "I think someone has been collecting it for longer than 5 years, weaponizing it, learning to corrupt it." Aldrich's jaw clenched. "And I think your poisoning was a test run." "A test for what?" "For whatever they're planning next." He turned to face her fully. "Kira, when the poison activated in you, did you feel anything else? Any other presence? Any sense of being watched?" She frowned, reaching back through the memory of transformation. It had been chaotic, agonizing, but yes, just for a moment, right before the pain started, something cold. Hungry. Someone was monitoring you, waiting to see what would happen when the poison found its mate. The implications settled over her like ice water. They know about us now. Know that the poison created a bond instead of killing us. And they'll either try again with a different method or, Aldrich hesitated, or they'll try to capture one of us to study what went wrong. Exactly. He pulled her closer, his hand finding the small of her back. "Which is why your training is critical, and why, in 3 days, when your transformation is complete, we're going hunting." "Hunting for what?" "Answers. The poison came from somewhere. Someone forged it, tested it, perfected it, and somewhere in that chain, there's a weakness." His eyes gleamed silver in the filtered light. "We're going to find it, exploit it, and burn their entire operation to the ground." Kira leaned into his warmth, feeling the rightness of it settle in her bones. 5 years as a weapon, never knowing whose hand held the trigger. Now she would take that weapon and turn it against those who'd created her. "When do we start?" she asked. Aldrich's smile was sharp enough to cut. "Tomorrow night, there's a gathering of territory leaders. Someone there knows more than they should. We're going to find out who. As they walked back through the Heartwoods, Kira felt the last pieces of her old life fall away. The pack that had exiled her, the isolation that had defined her, the fear that had been her constant companion, all of it dissolved in the face of what she was becoming. She was Kira, mate to the Alpha King, forged in poison and reborn in power, and whoever had tried to make her a weapon was about to learn what happened when the weapon chose its own target. The gathering of masks. The grand hall of the northern estate had been transformed. Crystalline chandeliers cast rainbow light across marble floors, polished to mirror shine, while servants moved like shadows, ensuring every glass stayed full, every plate perfectly arranged. 200 wolves in formal attire mingled beneath vaulted ceilings, their conversations a carefully orchestrated symphony of alliance and betrayal. Kira stood at the hall's entrance, wearing a gown that Vera had insisted was appropriate for a king's mate. The fabric was deep midnight blue, shot through with silver threads that caught the light with every breath. It was beautiful. It was armor. "Breathe," Aldrich murmured beside her, devastating in formal black with silver embroidery that matched the patterns on her skin. "They're just wolves. Wolves who want to tear out my throat to test if I'm worthy of you." "Well, yes, but they'll do it politely." His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. "Ready?" "No." But she nodded anyway. They descended the stairs together, and the hall fell silent. Every eye tracked their movement, cataloguing the way Aldrich held her hand, the matching silver of their eyes, the unmistakable bond that sang between them. Kira felt their judgment like physical weight, but she kept her spine straight and her expression serene. Vera had drilled her on the major players. The Eastern Coalition was represented by Alpha Dominic, middle-aged, calculating, with eyes that missed nothing. The Southern Court had sent Lady Morgana, beautiful and poisonous as nightshade. Various smaller packs had sent their leaders, each one hoping to curry favor or forge alliances. And somewhere among them, according to Aldrich's intelligence network, was someone who knew about the poison. "Alpha King," Dominic approached first, his smile warm but his eyes cold. "What a magnificent gathering, and this must be the mysterious hollow one we've all heard whispers about." This is Kira," Aldrich corrected, his tone pleasant but firm. "My mate." The word landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through the assembled crowd. Whispers erupted, quickly suppressed. A king's mate hadn't been publicly announced in the Northern Realms for 20 years. Dominic's eyebrows rose. "How sudden! I was under the impression you preferred to remain unattached, given the political complexities." "Plans change." Aldrich's grip on Kira's hand tightened fractionally. "The fates don't consult our calendars." "Indeed." Dominic's gaze slid to Kira, assessing. "And where do you hail from, my dear? Your scent carries notes of the eastern borderlands." "I was with the Moon Spire Pack," Kira answered, keeping her voice level. Before you became the Hollow One." Lady Morgana glided closer, her crimson dress flowing like blood. "I've heard fascinating stories about you. A wolf who walked death for 5 years. Some say you were cursed. Others say you were blessed." Her smile was knife-sharp. "Which is true?" "Both," Kira answered honestly. "I carried poison meant to kill, but it transformed me instead." Morgana's eyes gleamed with interest. "Transformed you how?" "That," Aldrich interjected smoothly, "is a conversation for another time. Tonight is about celebration, not medical histories." He guided Kira away from their scrutiny, toward the dance floor where other couples swayed to music, provided by a small orchestra. "That was deliberate," Kira sent through the bond. "You wanted them curious. Curious people ask questions. Questions reveal information." Aldrich pulled her into his arms as they began to dance. "Watch their reactions. Someone here will be more interested than they should be." They moved across the floor, and Kira felt the weight of dozens of gazes. But Aldrich was right. Most were merely curious or envious. Only 3 held that sharp edge of calculation. Dominic, whose eyes tracked every movement like he was solving a puzzle. Morgana, whose smile had turned speculative and hungry. And a third figure, one Vera hadn't mentioned. An older wolf who stood alone near the windows, his expression carefully neutral. But his scent, the one by the eastern window, Kira scent. His scent is wrong. Aldrich's steps never faltered, but she felt his attention sharpen. Define wrong. Underneath the wolf, there's something else. Something that smells like the poison did, old magic, corrupted.